All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, panelists. We have some new panelists and some returners. Third time at the end of the row?
Yep.
That's the record. There you go. Thank you so much. Well, I'm honored to introduce to you Apollo, who's going to be running through the grad defense. Apollo, we're going to run down the line real quick so you know who we're talking to.
All right.
Then we're going to let Apollo do their thing. Turn it over to the panel and the audience. So would you start right here?
Cool, yeah. Hi, Apollo. My name is Carl Sagerstrom, he, him pronouns. I'm the Communications and Storytelling Manager at Empire Health Foundation, and looking forward to learning more about you.
All right.
Hi, I'm Scott. I'm the Africana Studies Senior Professor at Eastern Washington University and a member of Board of Trustees at Gonzaga University.
All righty.
Hi, Apollo. I'm Cheryl. First time doing this, so bear with me. It's great.
It's my first time doing this too.
That's something in common. It's great to be back with students. I've been a high school principal in Montana and Alaska for 30 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Levine. I'm an HR specialist at Spokane Public Schools.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, I'm Jackie Branch. I'm also an HR specialist at Spokane Public Schools.
All righty. Shall I begin? Okay. Welcome all to my grad defense. Like Nate said, I'm Apollo Naldret, and I'm an artist. I'm project focused, I like helping people and being a part of bigger things, but at the end of the day, I am a leader. However, I was not always like this. In 4th grade, I was probably the worst student in my class. My teacher, Miss Wilson, would hand out a list of every student's late assignments, and mine was by far the longest at 3 pages, 55 late assignments. This isn't to say that I was a dumb kid. I was a quick learner. I understood all of what we were learning. I just grew up in a household where school didn't matter, according to my dad, and my mom didn't care that much to change that. Things continued like this for a while. I started doing a few more assignments if they were fun to me, but overall it wasn't a huge change. On the rare occasion that my parents helped me with homework, it usually turned into a fight. After a while, I began to hate school. Class was boring unless I was drawing, and homework was only ever associated with stress and anger. Then came freshman year. I went to Lewis and Clark for my first year of high school, and being at such a huge school, it was much easier for me to slip through the cracks and not participate. On top of that, I had gone to Libby Center, where a decent chunk of my middle school assignments were already from the high school curriculum. I remember sitting in my English class in front of a worksheet I knew I had already seen, listening to the same spiel I was already given 2 years ago. This made me care even less than I already did about school. I had already seen it all. And to add more fuel to the fire, I had been kicked out and was living on alone in a shelter. School became the last thing I cared about, and with no authority to tell me to get to school, nothing stopped me from ditching. Even once I had moved back in with my mom, I was already a master at avoiding school. I might as well have skipped a grade with how little I attended. 1 year, I switched to DCS. It seemed a lot more interesting and a bit more my style. I mean, at the very least, I wasn't doing the same English assignment again. But I still didn't put in much effort. That is when Nate noticed me. Nate was the first teacher to truly put his foot down and tell me that I needed to try. I needed to step up. To put it bluntly, in 1 year, I hated Nate. But he never gave up on me. I was stubborn, set in my ways, and I was completely fine floating under the radar. I mean, the idea of putting effort into school sounded like a nightmare, but Nate was having none of it. He was the advisor I needed. He taught me that I'm the only one who can pick me up. There's only so much There's only so much other people can do for you if you don't try. I've carried this with me, and it's become the motto I live by. Help doesn't work if you don't take it, and if you don't try, you won't succeed. Slowly, I started to find my drive. I found a purpose and a reason to do things. I wanted to build a good life for myself and have achievements to go along with it. For the first time in my life, I thought I would make it to graduation, a goal that seemed impossible before. In 301 year, I started really putting in the effort. The Project Mobius Mosaic was the first project I really put my whole heart into. We were asked to make science exhibits for the Mobius Discovery Center, completed with instructions for kids, the volunteers, a poster, and in my case, 200 paper circles cut out by hand. I had a difficult group, but I pushed through regardless. I was determined to pass with a good grade, and if my teammates weren't going to step up, then I would. By the end of the class, I had done basically the entire project on my own, even working outside of school for the first time in my life, until 2 a.m, well sick, just to pull it off. This taught me agency, the value of stepping up and choosing to move forward despite the challenge. Agency became the foundation for a majority of my best achievements and skills. This is some of the work from that project. The big blue poster in the middle is obviously the poster for that project, and this is the volunteer instructions that I mentioned. This is probably the most professional looking document I've written, or at least the most professional one I'd written thus far. And then that over there is for the project that I'm about to talk about, which is Love and Labor in the Lilac City. In that project, we read the book The Cold Millions by Jess Walter. We worked as a class to write paragraphs about locations in Spokane featured in the book, and then edit and place them on a digital map that people could visit. And they could learn more about the things that they had also read about in the book. This was the first project where I'd worked with such a large group to pull off such a united goal, and it was a lot more fulfilling than I had ever expected. The project is what sparked my love for working with a team to do something big. I wanted to put my name on things, and not just because I was in the group on paper, but because I actually put the work in. That is the entry that I wrote for the map. And another project that I was in, Native Voices, I learned a lot more about collaboration and the value of knowing your skills. In this project, I paired with Avery, who has since graduated, to write a change letter about including more Native history in schools. This was the first time Avery and I had ever worked or even talked to each other, but luckily for me, she was very smart, and after being at TCS for 4 years, also very skilled with collaboration. She had us sit down and go over what our relevant skills were, and based off of those, we devised a plan. I was very passionate and had a tendency to spill my mind out into documents, and Avery was a great editor and amazing at rewarding things to be more professional. So I wrote us up a draft letter filling out every point we had come up with. And then Avery went through, cleaned it up, and added some of her own points that I had forgotten, and then we submitted. We both felt really good about our letter, and the project taught me a lot about the value of communicating with your partner about skills and workload. Since then, the first thing I like to do in a group is figure out what my teammates' skills are and how they work, to make sure we have the best chance at success. Now I get to talk a little bit about art and theater. All my life, I have been an artist. I love to create, whether it's sketching, painting, or in this case, prop making. I found my love for prop making in 201 year when I joined the cosplay class. Twice a week for an hour, I was given the time to build whatever I wanted. This class in 201 year was the only thing that I cared about, for better or for worse. I loved having time to sit and just create whatever I wanted. I made a variety of different props over the years, and I gained a lot of experience. That over there may be a little confusing if you don't know a whole lot about anime. That's not just a cross, it's from a show that I made, and this is kind of my magnum opus. It's the biggest project that I've ever taken on so far. I would have brought it in today, which I did at a previous exhibition, but it is 6 feet tall and bigger than me, and I'm not putting that in my girlfriend's car.
It doesn't fit in my car.
It does not fit in your car.
Hardly did last time.
All of this prop experience that I gained led me to becoming the props manager in the 5th session project No Holds Barred. This is by far the favorite project that I've ever been in. We were challenged with taking a 30-minute section of Midsummer's Night Dream by Shakespeare and recreating it with our own twist to perform at Expo 74. The facilitators took a major step back in this project. Instead, they had the students interview for their positions. I loved theater, artistry, and prop making, and when I saw the chance to be the lead of the props team, I jumped on the opportunity. My interview, to put it bluntly, was a breeze. I had plenty of experience with prop making, had actually been the props manager on a previous school play, and was part of ASB, which showed I had leadership skills. Needless to say, I got the role. The first real day with our groups was amazing. First, we sat with our group and made a list of what props we think we'd need, and then I went around and asked everyone what experience they had with props in theater, what other relevant skills they had, and if they had a preference on what they'd like to work on. Once everybody was split, we never stopped working. If someone didn't have something to do, I would find a prop for them to work on or somebody to help. I ran around with a spreadsheet, keeping track of what still needed made, bought, materials, etc. I was everywhere all at once. You could have reasonably assumed that I cloned myself. On top of managing my group, I also went around to the set team and costume teams to help them. By the end of the project, I had helped with just about every group except the actors. My team finished our props so fast that by the time the project had ended, we had basically outsourced our entire team to go assist the other teams. I was one of the few people other than the actors to show up on the day of our performance to help. I ended up being the only person to volunteer to stand backstage and hold up our backdrop to avoid the heavy wind from knocking it over. There I am, holding it up mid-performance. And that photo in the middle is me, hunched over working on the spreadsheet and making sure we were organized while all of my teammates had fun and made things. Once the project was over, I had gotten a perfect grade on this project for my collaboration, leadership, and products. Quite literally a 100% grade. And feedback from 11 people, including people who weren't even in my group, giving me 4 out of 4 scores for collaboration. This was a great way to end my 301 year. I walked out of school proud of what I had done, which was honestly a new feeling for me. At the start of 401 year, we did an orientation project where we worked with Generation Alive, an organization that works with schools to host fundraisers, typically for Second Harvest and Bite to Go. Our goal was to raise $5,000 for Second Harvest, a goal that we beat by over $2,000. I was part of my class's graphic design team, which I ended up taking an unofficial leadership role in. I ended up making the posters, flyers, and social media posts to advertise our fundraiser. This was the first time I had ever worked with Adobe for graphic design purposes, and I loved it. It was honestly a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. After the project, Chris Sloan from Generation Alive asked if any students were interested in volunteering with Generation Alive to go to Stevens Elementary and help them with the fundraiser. This wasn't the first time that someone had come to our school and offered up an opportunity like this, but it was the first one that I chose to take. From then on, for the next few months, on Mondays, for the first few hours of the day, I would meet with a group of kids from Stevens Elementary who were dubbed the Action Team. This was an interesting experience, but it was a fun one. I got to teach kids about food insecurity and how to be compassionate. The fundraiser was ended with a large packing event. This was a very chaotic day. Think of about 100 elementary schoolers making the actual oatmeal packets for people to eat for 2.5 hours. There was 9 tables with roughly 12 kids at each, and there was only 4 of us high school volunteers. We were each assigned 2 tables to look after, with one of the girls volunteering to take 3 tables. Aside from a few expected mishaps here and there that come with working with a horde of elementary schoolers, all was going well until about 20 minutes in when one of the teachers approached me frustrated, asking why no one was helping with the 3 tables that the other girl had taken. Turns out she had left 10 minutes in with little to no warning and had left her group of kids all on their own to pack the oatmeal. Unsure what else to do, I told the elementary teacher that I would come take over, which I did. I was swamped with work after this, as I was now managing 5 tables worth of kids with little to no help from the adults since they all had plenty more to be doing. This packing event really challenged my leadership and ability to work under pressure. I'm unsure if any of you have worked with a large group of kids, but it does not take a genius to know that they are hard to manage. Despite the challenge, my tables did very well. I was proud of the kids and myself for managing to get the oatmeal packed so fast with only a few errors. My ability to lead grew a lot from this. I mean, if I can manage 67-year-olds and get them to learn and have fun, who's to say what I can't do? I will admit it was not easy. Kids are difficult to work with as much as I enjoy it, and there was also a level of quality we had to uphold because these packs were actually going to real food banks. This wasn't the most pressure I've been under, but it does come close. Regardless, I'm thankful for high-stress scenarios like this, as I'm a lot better at working under pressure. As a result. After the packing event, I reached out to Chris Sloan and asked if he had any other volunteer opportunities for me because I realized I really enjoy helping people in the way that he does. Since then, I've gone to a meeting at their office and signed up to be able to join them at future events. Another thing that that orientation project brought me was graphic design. I mentioned at a base level, I just find graphic design really fun. After doing graphic design for the fundraiser, I joined Nate's photography and graphic design class. In this wellness, we made posts for the TCS social media pages. We would spend Tuesday making a post and Thursday reviewing each other's posts in front of the entire class and getting feedback. Since there was a quality level needed for things to get posted, many posts would get turned around to be worked on for another week, and in some cases be scrapped altogether. If you didn't get a post up that week, you didn't get a point, even if you made a post. Those points determined your grade. This added pressure to getting posts out, but luckily for me, I was a natural. I don't think I ever got fully turned around once in that class. That isn't to say I didn't get feedback. There were plenty of times where I had to go back and make little changes, but I was so quick on the turnaround and also bothered Nate about it, and ended up getting them turned out just in the same day. I also used my graphic design skills to make the front cover with help from Lexi, and the back cover on my own for our school's voter's guide. On the screen here, you can see some of the graphic design that I did. Here are the voter's guide covers. That pink one in the top corner is the favorite post that I've made, although it's pretty closely tied with that poetry slam post. The Thank You Generation Alive is the first post I ever made. The red one is the cover for this year's lip sync music video. And the 2 at the top are probably my favorites. Usually when I'm making something like to go up on a school Instagram, I try to be a bit more professional with it, but those were the slides for my last exhibition. And because it was my exhibition, I got to have as much fun with the graphic design as I wanted, so they got to be as colorful and fun, and I just had a blast making them. Aside from just doing graphic design, we were also taught how to use cameras, which I loved. I ended up being the kid with the camera at a lot of school events this year. My friends in filmmaking once pulled me out of class to come work the cameras for one of the TCS News episodes they were making. After that, I became an unofficial honorary member of That Wellness until I later joined it. These are some photos that I took. Those are from the beginning of this year at Camp Reed, and this is a photo I took from Law & Order, which is another project we did. One day during advisory, Nate set a letter for me on the desk. That letter was an invitation to be a TCS ambassador. I think I might have had a heart attack when I read it. A TCS ambassador is a student who speaks at our TCS information nights and goes up to the middle schools to recruit new students. This, to me, was something that only the good top-of-the-class students got to do, the ones that participate in leadership and are, like, TCS putting their best foot forward. Getting this letter felt like crossing the finish line. I don't know if this invitation meant anything to the person who decided to give it to me, but to me, it meant everything. It was recognition for all the work I'd put in to get where I was. While being at TCS Ambassador, I did a lot of public speaking where I was put on the spot. Our presentations didn't have scripts, so I ended up improvising the majority of them. I also had to be able to answer questions about the school and my education very quickly and professionally. I also did a lot of other public speaking. In our project Law & Order, I argued a fake case in front of Rio Gonzaga law students, and won my case, by the way. I was also the MC for both our Winter Forum this year and Springfest. I also got the opportunity to read poetry out loud at Hamilton Studios. After that, one of the judges for a poetry competition some students were participating in actually came up to me and told me that I should have participated in the competition because of how well I did. And after that, I also ended up becoming friends with the Spokane Poet Laureate Mary Smith. She actually bought me dinner at a poetry open night that I went to and read at. I've also done other leadership. I briefly mentioned that I was an ASB. I've been our ASB rep for the past 2 years. And I was also the props manager for a school play that we held in 301 year called The Last Day of School. I also worked with Tammy, one of the other facilitators, to design our shirts for Springfest, a mini festival that we hold out back of TCS in the spring after doing volunteer work. And I also led a group, led a group during Sealing the Deal where we built sheds for Habitat for Humanity. That project, I learned the value of actually getting to know your teammates as people and not just their skills. Being able to joke around with my teammates made that project a lot easier, and I didn't feel so alone in my stress. Building a shed for the first time was a struggle, but it was nice to not feel so alone in that work, which is a new feeling. A lot of the time in groups before this, I would be stressed and frustrated with my group and frustrated about everything that was happening, and I would just be like, okay, I'm just gonna sit and do this and be upset about it. But this was the first time where my group came together and we were all upset at the thing, and it actually helped us get more done. I don't think we would have been able to be as productive if it wasn't for the fact that we got along with each other. I also live in my own apartment now with my girlfriend. I think for a lot of people, moving out of their home for the first time, no longer living with their parents, is very difficult, but for me it was relatively easy. I've always been a very independent person, and if anything, I was glad to finally be out on my own. Living on my own has been helping me build even more responsibility, since I now have an apartment and 2 cats to take care of. We moved in almost 2 months ago, and things have been going really well. The circumstances of my move weren't great, but now that I'm out of the situation I was in, I've been a lot happier and had the energy to do things that I really enjoy. And yes, putting photos on this slide was an excuse to show you my cats. After 12 years of schooling, I've learned who I am. Like I said earlier, I'm an artist first and a leader at the base level. I know it may sound weird to say that I'm an artist first after just talking about how much leadership I've done, but it is true. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely a leader. It's a massive part of myself, but I've always been an artist, and I've always known that. However, I have expanded on the mediums that I participate in. I love everything from drawing and painting to photography, prop making, and even fashion. While the side of me only comes out quietly in professional situations, it's all over everything I do. My documents are always colorful, and even in a dress shirt and slacks, I manage to work my personality into my outfits. No matter the situation I'm in, I will put an artistic spin on it. Of course, I've also learned that I'm a leader. I don't enjoy being told what to do, but to sound a bit egotistical for a minute, I am really good at telling other people what to do. I often have good ideas and the willpower to go through with projects and reach my goals. I'm also good at getting others on the same page and working with me. After my time at TCS, I've had mountains of experience working in teams and leading groups, and most, if not all, groups I've led have gone really well. I want to use these skills to help people. I want to become a volunteer service director. I want to get some more professional experience under my belt, both with volunteer work and just general job experience. And then I want to work towards starting my own organization. I want to create a foundation that can help kids like me succeed. No matter your background, I think any kid can succeed if they have even the smallest bit of help. I want to give other kids in the position I was in the same opportunities that TCS gave me. I'm not sure how exactly I'll do this, and that's why I want to get more experience volunteering as well as regular work so I can know what it's like. To rein it in a little bit, directly after high school, I plan on getting my name legally changed and then applying for a job at a few shops in Spokane. Right now, I'm not going for anything major because I still want to have time to volunteer and pursue art. Although that isn't to say if a great opportunity landed on my doorstep, I wouldn't take it. I'm all about taking good opportunities. Anyway, I do want to start selling art commissions and doing freelance photography. I'm working on refining both of my skills in those areas right now, and then I plan on saving up for a nice camera over the summer with the money I make from selling my art. Since I'll be in full control of those schedules, I can always dial it back if I end up being too busy. With the rest of my money, aside from paying for my girlfriend's life, I want to be able to save to buy a house and save up enough money to do college online. When I eventually go to college, I'll be trying to get a major in communications and a minor in either art or photography. I think I've come quite a long way since freshman year. If I were to pick a theme for my life thus far, it would be despite the challenge. No matter what I went through, I picked myself up and I pushed forward. If I had difficult group mates or things went wrong, I learned that I had to keep going and push through. Even with a rough home life, I came and I gave it my all, and I think learning to do that is what saved my life. I know that sounds dramatic, but I genuinely believe that I would not have made it this far, or at least not have grown or been as successful without TCS. The school gave me so many opportunities to not only grow, but to learn new hobbies and open doors to future careers. All the facilitators helped me in their own way somewhere along the line, but Nate by far did the most. He taught me to stand up on my own and never gave up on me. So thank you, Nate, for dealing with that mean 201, not giving up on that 301, and giving this 401 the chance to fly. Now, I don't want to give him all the credit. There's a lot that I learned on my own. I know saying I was quiet and now I'm not is basic, but it is true. Back when I was a freshman, I wouldn't have even dreamed of doing all the things I do now. Back then, public speaking was terrifying, and now it feels like second nature. Collaboration used to be a huge struggle for me, and even if I get frustrated with my teams, I've become a lot better at not giving up on them and pushing through problems. In general, I have a lot more skills than I did coming into TCS, and I never thought I'd say it before this year, but I'm ready to graduate. I'm ready to be an adult, so thank you for coming to my grad defense. Any questions?
Let's turn it over to the panel.
Thank you so much. Great presentation,
Thank you.
Apollo. I guess one thing I'm wondering about is, like, as a early career professional, you talked a lot about your leadership, but you'll probably be in a lot of positions where there will be other leaders on the team, people with more experience and perhaps their own vision. And I'd like to hear how you'll adapt your the qualities that you have to those situations where you won't necessarily have the opportunity or be asked to lead.
Mm-hmm. I think I do need to work on reining in my ego just a little bit. I do admit there are other people in the world who have better ideas than I do. And I think in those situations, I just need to remember that other people at the table have just as much say as I do, and listening to ideas like that could end up turning out for the better. There's been a lot of situations at TCS where I've had a vision and then something's gone wrong and it's turned out way better anyway, or things didn't go how I planned. And a lot of those situations, I'm glad they didn't go as planned because I ended up either learning or the product turned out better as a result.
Well, that was excellent. We really appreciate all the rich content and how much you've gone through and where you've come from and where you are now.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful blossoming of self-confidence that is crucial. You have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. But along that line, I wanted to ask you this. On every journey you go on, there's these landmarks of certain significant points that, make a kind of leave a lasting memory. What would you say are 2 landmarks that you could say have brought you to where you are now? What would you say are the significant spots that you had a turn, you had a boost?
The first one that comes to mind is working as a lead in No Holds Barred. That I had done leadership things, but ASB was a lot of just sitting and being yep, I'm in the room and I'm listening to what's going on. Whereas No Holds Barred was the first real leadership thing where I was in charge and there was an actual deadline that affected a lot of other people. And that taught me a lot about working under pressure and working with a team, and a lot of that is what sparked a lot of the skills that I have now. It's also just the most memorable project I have. There's been plenty of projects that I've done at TCS that they're over and then I immediately forget about them. But this one by far, I can remember almost everything I did in that project. What's another one? And then I think generally just switching to TCS, it was kind of like the first step in trying to make a change. And like, even if I didn't see it that way when I first came to TCS, it was sort of the first step I took into improving myself and my work ethic and just my confidence in general. I think if I went to a regular high school or stayed at Lewis and Clark, I don't think I would have blossomed as much as I have. And I think joining TCS was probably one of the other big ones.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, I appreciate that you want to start an organization to help young people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you run across someone who has very low self-esteem, kind of a sense of disillusionment about everything. What 3 words or what 3 phrases would you tell them, hey, hang on to these 3 things, you're going to get there? What would you say to them? What would you leave them with?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think generally, I think telling them that no matter who you are, your experience and your voice matters just as much as everyone else's. Everyone has great ideas to bring to the table. And if you don't speak out about those ideas, then they'll never be heard, and you won't be able to make a change if you don't speak up.
Actually, what you've gone through qualifies you to help people in those situations now, so I appreciate that. It's meaningful because you're not talking about a book, you're talking about your lived experience.
Yeah.
That's a value to serve others.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Apollo, that was such a delight for me to hear your story. And you told it very well, with authority. Something I would put in front of you is, yes, there's ego. Ego can be very helpful, but ego can also be your spirit. So it's all in the delivery. Whether it allows people to come in and be a part of your journey, or whether it pushes people away, and that's just something I would like you to be mindful of. Because I see all the building blocks that you created in yourself, and you know exactly where you want to go next. And I would ask you, so during Beyond the community school, I know you've got some aspirations. What are some action points that you want to take? Just a couple.
Well, this one's pretty basic, but first I want to just get a job, not only so that I can start earning money and like live, but I want to like be in a place where I'm working on like a truly professional team, so that I can get better at just working on a team, not just as a leader, but as a team member. I've had a lot of experiences at TCS where like it's really easy to just take up a leadership role if you want it. And so I haven't gotten as much experience as I'd like as a team member. And I think to be a good leader, you have to be a good team member too. Other than that, I want to start doing more volunteer work, not only with Generation Alive, but other organizations, so I can get a bit of a feel for like what other organizations do, so that I can start learning how I might start my organization. I have ideas in mind, but of course that's subject to change. I mean, I haven't been in the real world for very long. And then after that, I think it's just getting on my feet and reaching out and putting in the work to start up that organization to reach my goals.
Sounds good. I look forward to your future.
Thank you.
Great presentation. I really liked how you did a lot of visual presentation, so we really got to hear you speak on it. I thought that was very well done. And
Thank you.
The things that I wrote down that you demonstrated are resilience, your ability to collaborate, and also your passion for leadership. One thing that you talked about that really resonated with me, reflecting back on my youth, is that Nate was a mentor to you. And I think as we go through life, we always need a mentor. We always need somebody who's going to reflect ourselves in ways that may be uncomfortable, may stretch us.
Yeah.
So as you graduate from TCS, how are you going to find mentorship going forward?
I have a lot of adults in my life that, you know, I may not work with them professionally, but I have people who I think can teach me things regardless. I have her uncles who are very nice people who have taught me a lot about resilience as well, whether it's just through them picking on me or not. It necessarily has to be like a boss or someone with more authority than me. I'm willing to learn from anyone because I think everyone's experience matters, and I've learned a lot from like even freshmen at the community school. I've learned a lot from.
Yes, thank you, Apollo, for sharing your story with us. I really enjoyed that. When you mentioned your theme for life being despite the challenge, I had already written down something that despite the challenge that you had gone from 55 late assignments to getting 100% on your projects and stuff. You should be really proud of those accomplishments.
Thank you.
And also, I was curious about when you said you didn't feel like you were alone on a team anymore when you were on a project, and previously you had. Do you feel that that was due to the teammates, or do you feel that was due to your leadership and the growth that you had developed from your leadership skills?
I think it was a bit of both. I was in a group with generally nice people, but I didn't know many of them very well. There was only like one or two people on the team that I had like really had a full conversation with before and was like close with. The other like 3 or 4 people on the team I didn't know all that well at all, and I think just pulling everyone together and trying to like get us to have a good time was really fun. And I don't want to take all the credit for that because I think my teammate Aya did a lot to bring us together. I don't think she realizes it yet, but she's really good at uniting a group, and she has a lot more charisma than I think she does. But she did a big part in helping our group come together and be friendly and joke around even when we were frustrated with stuff.
Well, the other thing I wanted to share is you said you're a TCS ambassador and you went to the middle schools and talked to the kids, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you happen to go to Glover?
I did not.
Okay.
I mostly went back to Libby.
Okay. Well, I don't know who spoke to him, but I appreciate the ambassadors because my granddaughter was at Glover and heard that, and she is struggling currently at her middle school, and she heard that, and she is so excited to be going to TCS next year.
I'm so excited for
And she
her.
came home just ecstatic. I'm so happy for her that she found that, and she needed to hear the message that you guys were sharing, so thank you.
Of course. It's always nice getting to go out to the middle schools. There was definitely a group of kids in the crowd when I went to go speak at Libby for the first time that like I could tell were probably going to TCS next year, and I'm glad that they were, because there are kids who like it was actually a little uncanny. They looked exactly like me and my old friend group, and like down to hair color and everything. I'm not even kidding. And they reminded me a lot of myself when I was younger, and I'm hoping that they go to TCS next year, because I think that that generation of kids is going to do really well.
Open it up to the room if they want any questions or comments. I would just like to say that considering how, what a rocky start she got, I mean, I have known Apollo since
Third.
he went to Odyssey, and he's definitely been through it and came out the other side. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. I had similar circumstances growing up with an alcoholic for a mother and so I know how difficult it is. And the fact that TCS really is in a class all of its own and stuff. I don't know that either one of these guys would have made it through a regular high school experience, and I think they've just done such an amazing job, and he's just, I mean, so much more open and so much, I mean, a personality now, which before was just kind of a shell of a person and stuff, having to go through the motions. and now is so proud of himself, and he's done so much to get that. And I'm just really super proud of you.
You're gonna make me cry. Thank you.
I just want to say, I'm so grateful that you found a way to come out and be who you are and let the love that's within you shine on other people. And I'm just really proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Grandma.
You might not know who I am, but I've been keeping tabs on you for many years.
He's your guardian angel and mine and Nate's.
So you don't know who I am, but last year I said I wanted to be here, just to see you graduate, and just hear your heart on your story, because I know your story. And so I'm just pleased and excited that I can just be here and witness this. And I know that your future is extremely, extremely bright. And that ego is confidence. I would say don't bend or break your confidence for anything. And that is a leader, and you have to have that no matter what. Yeah, I'm just excited to be here. And again, my name is Randy Moore, work with the district.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
So, and I have to run, but I just wanted to say that I'm proud of you.
Thank you.